and welcome to tonight's program, Organizing Your Print Photographs. Our presenter is Highland Park resident Bonnie Hillman Shay, founder and owner of Mariposa Photo Organizing, which she established in 2007. Bonnie says that she is methodical by nature and a detective at heart, so photo organizing is her dream come true, and she is truly passionate about what she does. She managed a photography business for 20 plus years and is a member of the Photo Organizers and a member and business partner for the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, both at the national and Chicago levels. There will be time for Q&A after Bonnie concludes her presentation, and I'll also be distributing a handout then, so be sure to get one before you leave. And please remember that next week on Tuesday night, we're going to have part 2 of this series, Managing Your Digital Photos, with Lita Bunting, who is here. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Bonnie.
Absolutely.
I'll take it from here.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, and thank you, Mother Nature, who decided to warm it up a little bit this evening, so we didn't have to all trudge out below zero. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Grace, for having me here. And Natalie, thank you for being our tech wizard tonight, in charge of that. So I'm glad you're all here. And I'd like to start with getting a sense of why did you decide to come tonight? If you don't mind sharing with me what motivated you when you saw this in the program and said, yeah, I want to go.
Too many photos.
Okay.
Don't know what to do. Mine are overwhelming me.
Overall. That's insane. Okay. You maybe feel paralyzed. You're like, what do I do? How do I start? You've never done this before. Well, you came to the right place because I will inspire you. That's my plan tonight, to do something with those photos. And I'll share with you that I've been, like Grace mentioned, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I'm dedicated to just printed photos. Lita and I collaborate. I do the prints, she does the digital. So we do what we love doing and what we feel we're best at doing. But to me, the printed photos are at the highest risk of being lost or damaged. And we had our recent round of fires. I mean, I'm shaking just telling you guys that. Heartbreaking. That photos are there, you're printed, you don't have a backup. And then the next day, they're gone. So I'm committed for the rest of my life to help clients to make sure. So that's why I'm glad you're here. And I'm hoping that you will take the next step to save and safeguard and preserve your precious photos, because it's just overwhelming. So, all right, new technology for me. There we go. So, I have a question for you. If there was an emergency and you were asked to leave your home within 15 minutes after your loved ones, your pets, would photos be on the top of your list that you want to take with you? I thought that was pretty short bet. To me, photos do 3 things. They connect you to your past, your ancestors, your parents, your story, your family story that you have learned through your photos. Then there's that whole collection that you've taken, that you use to relive memories. You know, happy, sad, but it's your stories. And then there are the photos that you will pass on to your kids and grandkids as part of your legacy. So they're just a treasure, and we want to make sure that you can share them, that they're safe, and that you can enjoy them again, because a lot of people probably just have them hiding all over the house and haven't looked at them in a long time, especially if you're in the same house for many, many years. So to me, it makes sense that we treasure our photos and we want to make sure that they're safe. Let me get my reading glasses, ladies and gentlemen. I'm used to having my computer, but we have different technology here. It's all good. Aha. So I'm glad that you're here. So we're going to talk a lot about various things, but I'm going to give you a process of how to curate your printed photo collections. In the process, there'll be different ways to help tell your story, because that's what I want you to help you do too, is to tell your story. So I want to share one little way that I can use a photo to tell my story. That's my business card. That's me on my father's shoulders. So it's one photo out of my family's collection that I get to take every day, everywhere I go. And my dad passed away 46 years ago, so I feel extra special that I can take them with me. So it's a little thing, but I'm going to try to inspire you, maybe you'll inspire each other, to use your photos in different ways. There's not just one way to use them. So let's talk about what I think are the three challenges that you may be dealing with. How many of you have the mountain full of loose photos that you never did anything with? Okay. Maybe some of you curated your collection. You put them in albums and you have like 3 stacks of shelves with all the albums on them. Anybody do that? And then maybe some of you have inherited your parents, your grandparents. And so many of the photos that are in those collections, you have no idea who's in the photos. So it is your story, but there's not the content. There's not the story behind it. So if you have 1, 2, or 3 of those challenges, maybe that's how you feel. Like, ugh, what do I do? The good news is you're here tonight. And when you leave, you will be smarter. You'll have more information. You'll have more ideas of what to do and to get yourself out of feeling stuck and overwhelmed and paralyzed. Because that's my job tonight, is to get you motivated and get you have a process to keep going. And like Grace mentioned, there's a handout at the end that'll give you a sort of a recap of some of the steps, some additional steps. And I also do a monthly newsletter, a digital newsletter, and there's instructions on the handout if you would like to volunteer and sign up for my monthly newsletter. So you'll have Bonnie sort of in your inbox once a month just to keep you going forward. I'm not here to sell my services and have you hire me. It's let's get you going. I want to get you unparalyzed. So any way that I can help you, besides this evening, that's my job. So tonight I'm going to inspire you. You've already inspired because you showed up tonight, but I'm going to make more inspiration. I'm going to help you get started with the process and then different ways once you've curated your collection on how to tell your story. So let's jump into my 6-step process. Number 1 is gather all your photos together. How many of you have probably lived in your same house maybe for 10, 20, 30 years? So do you think your photos are hiding around all different places? So I sort of encourage people, because I like to have fun in life. Think of it as a treasure hunt. One day, make a date on your calendar or maybe with somebody and say, okay, I'm going to go around the house and try to find all the photos, because I want you to put your arms around them and have a central location to have all of your photos. Because sometimes I think as human beings, projects grow in our minds or we don't really have a sense of how big they may be. So just taking a spare bedroom, a dining room table that you can maybe dedicate as your photo central and just put all the photos there gives you a better sense of like, oh, yeah, it's a lot of photos, but it's not like, unknown. It's not an unknown quantity. So that's my plan, is to have you gather them all. That's step number 1. And if you have a space that you can dedicate it so that you don't have to clean it up and put it away and clean it up and put it away every time you work on it, that's better. So let's see, Thanksgiving is how many months away? You're not having a dinner party till Thanksgiving, so dining room table, that's your place to go. Spare bedroom, it all works. So here's a sample. It's not pretty. It's not organized, and that's okay. It's a central collection of photos, and you'll have albums, negatives, slides, VHS tapes, you name it. Every media, just pull it all together, and that's maybe what it's going to look like. Step number 1. Step number 2 is to gather some tools for the next step. So here are those tools that I want to give you a example of. Number 1 are these large index cards. Colorful. Just adds color to it, but I'll share with you why you do that. It's photo-safe pencils, because Sharpies and markers and pens writing on the backs of photos, not a good idea because you could deteriorate the photo. Post-it notes of all sizes are really helpful because you can stick them on a photo as you're writing notes if you wish, or to make some flags around the collection. And then boxes. And don't go to Container Store and buy some new boxes. We're talking shoe boxes, any box that you have in your house. Because we're not worried about archival boxes yet. These are your sorting boxes. This is your work in process boxes. So don't go out and buy anything. Just take shoes out of the shoe boxes that you have in your closet. So that's a general sense of tools, if you can gather those together and put them on the dining room table along with your photos.
Where do you get those pencils?
I believe I put them in the handout, but it's
Okay.
basically Amazon. They're just
Okay.
a soft pencil so that you're not scratching anything. And if it's not there, you can ask me, I
Thank
can
you.
tell you. Absolutely. So step number 3 is to sort your photos. Who has tried to sort their photos already? Okay. How have you tried to sort them?
By year.
Bingo.
Really?
Any other ways? Yeah.
Oh,
Any other ways to sort them?
For my old family photos, I've sorted them by family name.
Okay. Like branch of your family? Grace?
by family era. Like, oh, the 5 years we lived there altogether.
Perfect. Perfect. To me, the master chronology is chronology time because it's universal. And I'm not saying anything against what you did, but I've had too many clients try to sort their photos by child, by sibling, by this or that, an event. And I can tell you, Lita has tried to reorganize such a scan collection, and it's impossible because if you have a photo with 3 people in it, well, do I put it in Johnny's box or Sam's or Susie's? Chronological is universal. It doesn't matter. And I feel as human beings, we like to tell our stories, chronologically. So we had our first son, he was born, we see him grow up, or, just that kind of thing. And we're not going for perfection because not every photo will tell you what date it is. If you take a picture today on your phone, we know what date it is. That's easy. But printed photos, they didn't always have the date on them. Maybe mom or dad wrote the date on the back. Thank you. That's helpful. Sometimes it's the date that the film was developed, not that it was taken. So I don't want you to be all like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. We're not going for perfection. If we can get the general flow of your family's story chronologically, even by decade, like Grace, you almost had just good groupings of years, that's fine. Any way to get this general flow of your story in a chronological fashion. Down the road, you might tweak it a little bit, but just get that general flow going out. And to me, we want it in a system. And I'll show you a picture of it, what it looks like when you sort it and when it looks like a system. So these are my boxes. They're not fancy boxes. These are they're white, but these are what the index cards are for. I write a year on the top, and it's like a filing system. So there's envelopes, there's probably negatives, there's loose photos. Once again, it doesn't have to look pretty, but it's getting your system built for your collection. And think about this, if you can sort all your photos into this kind of system, then we'll do different layers and levels and pass all these. You'll take 1 year at a time and then go down the next level. But in general, I'd just like you to get your collection in a general flow chronologically. Any questions so far? I don't want to lose anybody. Grace.
Are we getting rid of bad photos at this point or not?
Next one, we're editing photos. You got it, Grace. She's my straight lady. She's asking the right questions. And what I want to mention is if you get stumped, because sometimes you'll look at a photo like, I don't know when this was. I don't even know who this is. Put it aside and you can come back to it later. But I'd like to encourage you to keep going, get some momentum going. And once again, not perfection. We want a general flow. You might have a whole envelope, a whole roll. So that's, you can say, oh yeah, that's from 1972. Put that in the 1972 container. And you'll probably have different sizes. Most photos you'll have probably a 3x5, 4x6, but you'll probably have some 8x10s, 5x7s. So you'll sort of figure out what size boxes make it work for you, but just keep them all together regardless of size by chronology. That is your master universe. Okay, editing. I'm going to give you a lot of different ways to edit them and different rules of thumb, and because in the end, and I may say this multiple times tonight, I want to focus on quality over quantity. And I'm going to say it again, quality over quantity. Even if I had a magic wand and I could wave it over your collection and say, boom, it's organized, it's dated, we know it all, it's going to be more photos than you want to manage or share. And I want your story to be the best of the best. I don't want to dilute each, so to me, each picture should have some part of your story. So editing is really key, as you asked about, Grace. So number one, remove duplicates. Who back in the day remembers when you go to Walgreens, oh, 99 cents for an extra set? I'm in. We thought that was a gift. Now it's cluttering us, it's weighing us down. So duplicates, out. If you feel like sharing them with somebody, fine. Sometimes it's even fun just making a postcard out of a photo to mail to someone so it's a blast from the past, they could have fun with it. But overall, let's let them go, because you don't need them. One master that we're going to eventually scan is all you need in this collection. Number two, identify redundant photos. So let me ask you, if you took a photo at your Thanksgiving dinner and there's 17 people, if you did that today, how many photos would you have to take to make sure you got a good one? Maybe 2, because then you could say, oh yeah, we're good, done. Back in the film days, you had to take 17 just to make sure you got a good one by the time you went to the photo editor, right? So technology's on our side today. Back in the film days, no. So redundant photos. If you have, that 17 copies of your Thanksgiving group photo, pick out the 1, 2, or maybe 3 of it and just let go of the rest. We took pictures at our kids' soccer games or football games. We don't need all of that redundant content. We want to get the best of the best. So keep of that. A nice rule of thumb is to identify redundant photos. Edit out poor quality. Poor quality could be what? Let's do some participation. What's a poor quality photo that you might be letting go of? Blurry, thank you. And yes. Especially if you're a 6-year-old daughter. Dark. Thank you. Dark.
Overexposed.
Overexposed, thank you.
Unflattering.
Absolutely. Because once again, we want the best of the best. We want the quality over quantity. So exactly. Poorly composed, you got all the answers. So that's another rule of thumb. And as I'm describing this, you may be making multiple passes through your collection. Because I want you to be comfortable with the decisions that you're making along the way. Since you've never done this before, you're sort of like getting comfortable being in the groove. So that's okay. And what I want to show you is not poor quality, is this. Does that look like poor quality to you?
It's probably
You might have
degraded.
Yeah, you probably have some pictures maybe that were too blue, too red, too yellow. They just. But I'm showing this to you because yes, it looks like it's poor quality, but the magic of scanning.
Yeah.
Abracadabra, bibbidi bobbidi boop. Yeah. It's like back to the original coloring when you picked it up. So I'm just showing that to you because I don't want you to throw out pictures that they were nicely composed. There's no heads cut off, but it looked like, yeah, I don't want this. That doesn't look really good. But voila, with the technology there, yeah, it's magic. I never get tired of that. So that's something to watch out for.
Question, did you use like
please.
a flatbed scanner or like a printer scanner? When you say scanned it, what kind of scanner did you use?
That's going to be the next step. So hold your question and we'll give you lots of information. Thank you for asking. I just wanted to give you sort of advance notice when you're in the editing frame of mind, what you might want to let go of or not.
When you throw away photos, are they recyclable?
No,
Okay,
no, they're on photo paper.
okay.
No. And some people feel like it's sacrilegious throwing out photos. And the way I spin that in a positive mode is think of it as letting the best rise to the top. It's like the creme de la creme. And if you leave all the garbage in there, it's going to, compromise. Maybe someday they'll be recyclable, but not at this point. Or you can make a collage. So our last pass, so we've done chronological, we've done a lot of editing passes. Our last pass is now to decide what we're going to have scanned. Once again, quality over quantity. So we want to choose the best of the best. So for example, you had your son's sixth birthday party and we have 42 pictures of it. We don't need 42. Maybe we want each child that was at the party represented. We want to capture what they did. you'll tell yourself what's meaningful. But we want to, narrow it down so that it's a reasonable quantity. If you have a picture of the Eiffel Tower by itself on your great trip to France, do you think you want to keep it?
No.
If you're standing in front of it? So scenery in general, we love taking pictures of scenery. I know we all did, especially in the slide film. For some reason, people just love the slide film. But it's not meaningful. You might keep a few just to show that, oh, we were in Paris or we were in, wherever we were. But in general, scenery without people in it are not meaningful. And yeah, so people are really what's the meaningful part of your collection, not the scenery. So here we took, what I started with was 14,000 photos for this client. And we now have 8 shoeboxes that are all edited, organized chronologically, and ready to be scanned. And if any of you like statistics or quantities or numbers, who likes numbers in this world? Okay. An inch of photos. Anybody want to guess how many photos are in an inch of photos?
56.
Okay. Anybody want to outbid her? 100.
100.
So in a shoebox, if it's 10 inches long, that's 1,000 photos.
Okay.
So you started with 14,000, and what did you get it down to?
8,000. That's a lifetime of photos. This is one person, so I don't want to scare you with numbers because each family has their own collection. And some people have edited them along the way, making albums or what have you. But this one was from, 14,000 to 8,000.
Should you count how many are in each box, probably, when you finish the box?
An inch. You can just measure it, get your ruler out. That's what I love, the little, the general rule of thumb. And I forget slides. There's a different, I think an inch is a dozen. Like we have slides, like you were talking about slide cartridges, about a dozen slides in an inch. So we are ready to talk about scanning, to answer your question from the lady in the back row. So
Before you go on, what about negatives? Like we have negatives.
good question. So if you have all the envelopes from the photo lab that have photos with the negatives in them, I would leave them together for now, but eventually you're going to let go of the negatives because we get such a fabulous scan from the actual print. We don't need to scan the negatives. And it's more costly to scan the negatives, and they're harder to look at. I mean, if you're missing the photos for some reason, you only have the negatives, that's your only chance. Absolutely, those are golden. But in general, we keep them together for now. They're sort of a backup for now, but when you're really done with your whole collection, yeah. So the magic of, I've already showed you the magic of the color correction, but let me just show you what scanning does for you 3 ways. 1, it backs up your photos. So God forbid if anything happens to the printed photos, you have a backup. They've been color corrected, so the images are even better than they are in the printed form. And now you can do anything with those scanned photos that you could do with the photo you take on your phone today. So let's say you have siblings or you have multiple children. Everybody can get a copy. We don't have to decide who gets this photo. Sam, Susie, or John. All 3 of them can get it, right? So it's just golden. So the big question in the scanning world is who does the scanning? To me, there's 2 ways. Outsource it to a local scanning company or do it yourself. Anybody in here have a scanner and has tried doing it yourself? Success? Okay.
Well, depends.
Okay. I'm not telling you what to do or not to do, but I just want to outline, because my goal, as I already said tonight, is to unstick you and get you moving forward and get your curated collection done. So that's safe and it's fabulous. To scan it yourself, oftentimes the kind of scanners that we have as lay people are not absolutely great. And I'll sort of demonstrate one. So let's say there's a flatbed scanner like you asked in the back. I put the photo down, I put the lid down. That was one photo. Take the next one. Do this 8,000 times. Not happening. You got the rest of your life to to get to. So I've had too many people buy scanners and say, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And admire that they want to do it because they figured I have the time, I have the interest, but technologically, it's just not easy. I have high grade professional scanners. I'm not scanning anymore because I'd rather do what only this brain can do for Bonnie and for my clients, and equipment breaks. There's dust. It's just not my favorite place to be. So I use a local scanning company that's on the handout, the Print Refinery here in Vernon Hills. I would say do not ship anything anywhere because we live in a fabulous metropolitan area that you have choices of using a scanning company, because shipping something that's not replaceable is just not a good choice. So to me, the two off, I'm downplaying doing it yourself. I'm not saying don't do it yourself, but if it gets in the way of getting your project done, I'd rather you outsource it. And the Vernon Hills, the Print Refinery, does a phenomenal job on negatives, slides, prints, VHS tapes, movie film, any kind of media that you have, and they do the color correction. They do this day in, day out. I want to give it to the experts that do it. And so if you're concerned about the cost of that because you're outsourcing it, that could contribute to your editing. Like edit the hell out of, excuse my language, edit the heck out of your, and really keep the best of the best and organize it. And I want to point that out to you. Let's say you have 3 tubs of all your photos and you say, Bonnie, I'm not going to do any of this. I'm just going to take it to the Print Refinery and have them scan it. Well, you're going to give them a mess. And I'm not saying this in a critical fashion, but it's a mess. It's not been organized. You're going to bring that in. They're going to do a phenomenal job because they do high quality work, but then they're going to give you a digital mess. And like I already mentioned, Lita's tried that. She's tried to clean up a digital mess. So number 1 is to organize it so that you get an organized collection back. So like that collection right here, they will, and I'm not just speaking of them, any scanning company that you use who does it right, you'll get a thumb drive back with folders and subfolders. There'll be a folder for 72, 1973, 1974. So they'll coming back to you the way you gave them. And if you give it to them in an organized fashion, you're going to get it back that way. So right away, it's color corrected and organized.
How much did that cost for the 8,000? It's just, I won't hold you to it, I'm just curious.
That's okay. Use 50 cents for an approximate cost for one scan.
Per scan.
50 cents?
Wow, so $4,000. Well,
That-
you know what? It's worth it.
It's a lifetime of photos.
I could see 'em.
You know, I feel like if you've done it over the years, it wouldn't feel so costly. But to me, and I'll say this at the end, a curated collection that's been scanned is a gift that keeps on giving to you and your family. It's just, that's why I do what I do.
So when they return it to you on a thumb drive, is that a safe way? Just on a thumb drive in your drawer?
You want to, well,
Or is that your defense?
Back up.
all right, I'm gonna sit down and lead it. No, just kidding. Well, no, it's one better. You want, we've, in the photo organizing world, we do the 3-2-1 backup. You want 3 copies of everything you have, 2 different kinds, so, you know, not 2 of the same flash drives because technology fails, and then 1 in the cloud. So that if anything happens to your house, your computer, so 3-2-1.
Well, what's
If you-
the second one? One's a thumb drive and what's the
Oh, I'm
second?
sorry. 3 copies, 2 different kinds, 2 different technologies, and 1's up in the cloud. So let's say you can have 1 flash drive in your house. You could put an external hard drive in your safety deposit box or at your office. And to me, the beauty of it, like when I work with clients, they have 4 children. Well, right away, we have 4 backups of that collection because each of the kids who live around the whole country. And then you can put it on your computer. And if you're, just for instance, I'm not saying you have to be Apple, but to give you an example, if you have an iCloud, well, right away, you have it on your phone, you have an iCloud, it might be in your computer. So multiple. As long as it's the master collection that you're putting in different places. Don't try to break it up in different places because then you lose sight and then Lita comes to save the day. So any other questions about scanning? I don't want to gloss over it. Yes, sir.
Are these scans then editable? Can I then play around with it and
Yeah,
or high resolution as well?
yes, glad you asked. There are different levels of resolution. I usually have mine done at 600 dots per inch, which is just big enough to be high enough resolution to do what I want, but not too high that the file size becomes unmanageable. But if you have a couple that you know you want to make a poster size, then you can have a higher resolution of that. And that's why the negatives and slides are a little bit more expensive too, because you're starting with a smaller picture. So to give you a nice resolution image, they have to give it a higher resolution scan. Okay.
So they do
Yes.
this by date then, like, will it say 1972 and then these photos, or they're just gonna give it to me in order?
They'll give it to you in folders and subfolders. It's like, yeah,
Based on how you label it, okay.
right, exactly.
I have a question. Let's say you had like wedding pictures, the photographer's not in business, but they have the like watermark on it. Will they scan it for you, or will they say we can't do it because it's protected?
There's variations, I can't speak for them. Typically, if it's yours and you're not selling it,
Right.
you're not making any money on it, they're okay to scan it, because it's yours, and you already paid for the, but, there's other variations, like if the company's out of business, they're not even around anymore, that's a whole different thing. If they're still in business, you could always write and ask for permission, you know, if they're extra strict, but, yeah. Okay, so, before and after of my clients, scan, we already talked about that, sorry, I jumped ahead. Before and after photos of my client's photo collection, just want to take you through the summary again. So this is the mess that we collected all the photos, right? Then we had it in our filing system. Then we had it scanned, and now you literally can hold it in your hand. These 8,000 photos you can hold in your hand, which is pretty magic. And we have backups. And then when I deliver this to my clients, instead of the 17 boxes of photos that they gave me that I worked on, we have, let's see, in this collection, 4 boxes. They're archival, so there will not be any further deterioration of the printed photos. And it's going to take up a lot less space in your closet or your spare room, because we curated it down to a reasonable quantity. So nothing else will happen to them. People typically don't do anything else with these printed photos because the color correction is so phenomenal. They'll go back and create a new photo book with better images. And if you try to think about, if you have a lifetime of photos, you have square, you have this size, this, you can't find an album to put them in anyways, they're not good quality, but let's keep them in as a backup, just to have, because it's sort of hard to let go of your whole
And where are the
collection.
negatives? What did you do with them?
We let go of them.
But wait, these dividers, are those archival?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed a step. I mean, you've taken the scanned photos, then printed them?
No.
And
Oh,
then-
no, thanks for asking. I don't want to jump up. No, these are the original printed photos that we organized
Oh, all right.
and that we're just gonna keep.
And
And
you
I-
bought new boxes, these are
Correct.
archival boxes.
Exactly.
And you have a place for us to get the archival boxes?
There's a variety of places. Basically, if you can search for archival boxes, I go to a specific industry, but yeah, they're pretty easy. But once again, don't buy them until you know you're done and you're ready to store them in stores. And I didn't mention this, but climate control, wherever you put your ultimate collection, climate control. Basements, attics, no. Climate control is really where you want to keep everything so that they stay safe and don't get deteriorated. All right. And right now you have the gift that keeps on giving, because you have the flash drive that you can share now with yourself, with your family, and you can have some fun with it, make photo books, and that's what we're going to get into next. So we've done the whole process, the 6-step process, and now let's have some fun telling your family story now that you have these photos. Has anybody made a photo book these days? How's it feel? Right?
They're great.
They're great, and you can design it once and make as many copies as you want. Unlike the scrapbooking days where you had to make an original one for each person that you want.
It's a lot of work, though.
It is a lot of work. It is. But it's for a special occasion, it's for a trip, it's fabulous. So you can do that. Once again, design once. And a lot of my clients, I do find that it's wonderful to have everything digitized, now that you have them digitized, but I still feel as human beings, we like to have something tangible and something to pass around at a family occasion. So I think it's a perfect blend that we have better images from the scanning process, and now we can make a photo book to tell the story. I have to give a client of mine the credit for this idea. So what she does is she takes a handful of photos. We've already scanned, we've already curated, but she has a handful of photos. She puts it like on a serving tray and puts it in her TV room. So when her grandkids come over, they know to run over and look at the pictures, and they can ask grandma and grandpa about them. And what I love is how many of us remember our parents saying, "Don't touch that photo, get fingerprints on it." Well, she's telling her grandkids, touch those pictures, ask me questions, let me tell the story. So it's sort of, how in reverse. So I just think that's a great idea, and then she mixes it up. She'll just change them up every so often to have more stories to tell. So I think that's quite fun. A client of mine who I grew up with, so I've known his family for a long time, when he hired me, he said, "Bonnie, I don't know what you're really going to do because I've never done this, but I want you to please work with my mom to curate the collection. And at the end, can you please record her telling stories about some of these photos?" I'd never done that before, but I said, "Yes, I'll figure it out." So I came up with the idea of, I worked with Colleen, and every week I go to her house Tuesday afternoon, 1 to 4, and we would work together going down memory lane and curating the photos. And I would take notes while I hear her tell me stories about, oh, this trip, oh, that hot air balloon ride was great. I just kept taking notes. I had them scanned, and I went back to her house, and I put a big TV monitor in front of her as she sat on the couch, and she knew what we were doing. I said, "Colleen, I'm going to show you a picture, and can you tell me the story, please, that goes behind it?" So I just took my iPhone, turned it on voice memo, because I didn't want to start to videotape. That's a whole nother level of technology. I just wanted her voice. So I put my my phone in front of her, turned it on, and showed her the picture, and she started telling me a story. If I remember there were more details, I could question her and sort of prompt her to tell me more, and she did. I ended up with 17 snippets of audio of her telling the story. I used iMovie. I'm an Apple person. I have iMovie. I took the scanned picture, I took the audio, I merged them together and made these little 2 to 3 minute videos. I delivered them to my friend Mark, her son, and he had his family come, his siblings and his kids and grandkids, and they all came to the house and they sat on the couch and watched these little snippets. He called me up afterwards. He says, "Bonnie, I knew some of the stories, but I did not know all of them." So right now they have their mom's voice and the video. It's just, and it's easy. I didn't go high tech. I wasn't into editing. So that's one option. And I thank Mark to this day for asking me to do that, because I figured out a great way to use your photos and make sure you tell your stories. And my dad died so long ago, I do not have his voice on anything. And what I would give to have his voice, just to hear his voice. So to me, this is low tech, but low tech, and it's a gift. Anybody have a digital frame that they use for digital photos?
I have it and don't use it.
Time and technology. Sometimes it's too much. But digital frame, it's a great way to be able to use some of these photos. And I'll tell you a quick story. This client hired me. She and her husband got married. It was both a second marriage for both of them, and they were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. She wanted to surprise him. So I worked on their photos with them, and she asked me to select a bunch of photos of just the two of them. They didn't want to get the whole family, just the two of them, because they were so happy to have reached 40 years, which I did. And I made these 2 little slides, nothing fancy, but the plan was when he got down to breakfast the morning of their anniversary, the digital frame, which he didn't even know they had, was going to be out on the kitchen table, and it would turn on because it's motion sensitive. And he had that message and that message, and then one photo at a time came across of the two of them traveling or doing whatever. So once again, it's a way to tell a story. And I have to give Lita credit. She has her 2 daughters, and they have in her house a digital frame, and whoever's birthday it is, they wake up that morning and she put an album on that digital frame of just pictures of Lana or her husband Derek. So just, Garrett. Garrett, sorry. So just different ways that you can use technology because we want to get those photos back in your life. Just sitting on a shelf, it's sort of fun to have it. Yes.
My mom has something called an aura, and it is a digital frame that we can all contribute photos to remotely.
You can email them, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's crazy.
Yep.
Email them to the address on the frame.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Isn't there a way to do that with your television? Like turn your television while it's not on into a
Mine does, yeah, more like a. It takes it from my phone and it.
digital frame.
Like a desktop.
Yeah, it's like a screensaver almost that it can
Right,
just exactly
right.
slideshow. Yeah, yeah. And I will support you that it's overwhelming. Technology, there's so many choices. Like back in the day, you took a roll of film, you got a roll of pictures when you were done, and you were done. Now so I can did it. So I'm gonna keep you focused and keep taking the next step forward, but just knowing that there's so many options at the end of the project. But this is just a great way to tell stories. All right. Last example is for the first time after I've been in business for 17 years, a client of mine had passed away in the middle of a project. And her adult daughter asked me to do photo memorial boards for her funeral. I had never done them, but of course I said yes. Luckily, Lita had done them. I'm sorry, I should tell you, we're colleagues. We work together a lot. We work together a lot. I'm not here just to, point out Lita, but she had done these for her mom. So she told me how to do it. And so I did 8 photo boards, and each one was a different chapter of the woman's life. And I'll just sort of go through them quickly. This is her childhood. And these are 20 by 30, just to give you a visual.
Oh, one huge.
And they're digital. And Walgreens was our go-to. So it's not like, because you have to, they're time sensitive, right? You have a deadline. So you order it and it's ready in 2 hours or whatever. But she and her husband, their family, portraits, extended family, more extended family, friends, and then her having fun. She was just a fun-loving gal. So it was a sad moment for me to be doing this for my client that she was gone. But when I delivered them to the wake and I saw what a celebration it was for her and people who found themselves on the boards, family and friends, they were telling her story. They were reconnecting. So it was a sad reason, but it was a gift that kept on giving again because it connected them and celebrated this woman's life. And then the adult daughter had me turn this into a photo book. So they didn't have to have the 20 by 30 posters all around the house, but they wanted to have something tangible to remember mom by. And I put her obituary in there, so you could add to it. So I don't want to, be a downer here, but it's taking photos and it's a gift. It's telling someone's story. My hope for all you is that you're going to be telling your story while you're here and to celebrate going forward. But there's so many ways to that photos can be a gift. So have fun with your photos. And the reason I say this is if you've all tried it in some fashion or another, it's hard to do by yourself. So I'm going to suggest do it with a buddy. Do it with a sibling. Do it with a parent. Whoever is in your life that you can do it with. Or if you guys are friends with each other, do I kept joking that maybe like a photo bee, like there's a quilting bee, let's do a photo bee. Just to do it and go down memory lane together. Obviously, I'm an accountability partner, so I go down memory lane with my clients and they have an appointment, so they're going to get it done because we're doing it. But there's different ways that you can do that as well. And I encourage you to do that. Because just like we maybe call up a friend to go for a walk, right? It's more fun going on a walk with someone. So it's more fun to do your photos and you can help each other. All right, I already shared that food. Okay, so it's almost question and answer. I'm just going to have you set one goal for yourself. And the reason I put an elephant on there is you might feel overwhelmed because there's so many photos and so much media and I've given you so much information. But I want you to just be realistic and just set a small goal. So how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Thank you. One bite at a time. So think of your mountain of photos like an elephant. It's a lifetime of photos. So you're not going to get it done in one afternoon because it's taken you a lifetime to get here. So be realistic. Maybe on your way home tonight, all the way home. Come up with a goal, a small goal. Maybe it's the step number one, just to get it all, decide a table to pull all your photos. But come up with one step after the step that you did of coming here tonight, and just be realistic and get yourself going. And wintertime is a perfect time here in Chicago to be doing this. Summertime, you might be wanting to go to the beach or play tennis, but this is the perfect time to be doing it. So that is it. I am ready for questions.
Yes. This question, so when you did your poster, was that like a template collage from photos, or was that a collage template you used from Walgreens and then you requested that size, or how did you put that together?
Good question. They have various ways that you can create photos. I believe it's a photo poster. It's the terminology that if you go on their photo website. And then there's different templates that they have. And I think it's the quantity of photos, like 10, 15, whatever number of photos. But you can edit, and mine were not formulaic. They were, as you could tell, based on how many pictures. So I just saved my own little template that I just keep using over because I did 7 clients last year, photo morning boards. So one of those years, but it's, a way to celebrate. So yeah, you're welcome. And let me just back up for one moment, Grace. The beauty of it is I had one client that they were having the memorial service was in Boulder. So instead of shipping them from Chicago, I got to have the Boulder Walgreens print them. So, if you think about geographically, you're not just going to be here. That's why I love Walgreens, that you can have, hopefully they won't
It's
close.
good for weddings, it doesn't have to just be.
Thank you. Showers, you got it. Birthdays, you got it. Thank you for putting the positive spin on it. Appreciate it. All right, so I hand it.
What do you do with oversized photos that don't fit into those nice archival boxes?
Good question. Those boxes, they didn't fit in, but the company that I buy, they have different sizes. I just showed you the ones that were good for up to 5x7, but they have ones for 8x10, 11x14, so you can get a variety of sizes that you can accommodate all your collections.
And then just label them on the back.
Yeah, well, I would put the divider cards. I do that now because I'll have 8x10s mixed in for every year. So I'll just have a different set of the year categories by size. Yeah.
And if most of your photos are digital, do you have suggestions for organizing digital photos?
I have 2 suggestions. Come here next Tuesday night because Linda is presenting. And on my handout, there's a few just to add on beyond the printed photo collection, but she's the expert. That's her sweet spot.
When do you come in generally? I mean, after we put it in those boxes, or what generally do you do? How do you, and how much do you charge for?
Right. I work with two different ways. Each family is different, right? Each collection is different. Some people, I go to their house like every Tuesday afternoon from 1 to 4, and we just work as many sessions as we need to do it together because they're not going to do it on themselves because they're overwhelmed. Or I work with people who've been widowed, and so it's a way that I can be their buddy. And then I take the curated boxes to the scanning company. And I'll tell you what I do after the scans, but that's a general flow. But then I have clients who travel a lot and they're not around, and I'll say, Bonnie, after an initial session, I tell you who's who in the photos, and I give you my family tree so I can play detective, because it really is detective work. I take them all back to my studio and I do the work. And then I work with them on Zoom when we have everything scanned and I need to do labeling. It's costly because I charge by the hour. I charge $150 an hour, and it's hours and hours. But I find it's an investment in my clients' family stories, and it gets done at the right quality. What I want to share with you, and I'm glad you asked that question, because the post scanning that I want to sort of share with you, like if you take a picture on your phone today, if you have GPS turned on, it'll tell you it was taken at Glencoe Library, it was taken on January 22nd at 7:02 p.m. You're already ahead of the game. If you do facial recognition, if you do faces on your phone, you might already have that. Well, I'm doing all of that work on the printed scans. Because if I scan something today, it's gonna be dated January 22nd, but it was your third birthday party, so we know it wasn't, you know, it was probably 1983, but. So I redate the photos, once again, not perfectly, we just try to get them in the flow. I do facial recognition, so we can name the people in the photos. And then if there was anything written on the back of the photo or on the album page, I capture that so that each file, the digital file, now tells the story.
How do you capture that? So if we did that ourselves, how do you capture that?
Are you an Apple user?
Mhm.
So if you go into Apple Photos, you can do a lot of content adding. You can add keywords, tags, descriptions.
So this is after the scan.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, it's like you would do on a digital picture today if you want. Exactly. Exactly. There was something else that came to mind. Oh, so you asked about negatives, but people, do you have pictures in albums?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are they pocketed kind of albums, or are they the albums where you maybe wrote stuff on it and it's actually glued to
No, no, I got rid of those.
I know.
they fall apart?
I know. I'll show you my tool bag.
What do you use to get them out? Exactly.
This sometimes helps.
What is it?
Dental floss.
So we're talking about the sticky magnetic albums that they sort of are on both ends of the spectrum. They're either they dried up and the pictures just fall out, and I'm like, yay. The other ones, they hang on for dear life. So you can take a piece of dental floss, and I like to joke it could be minted or no. And you can, like, you want to be careful because it may not come off, but this, whatever. Or I also have, this is not a photo tool. This is an icing switch. Yeah, my tool bag. So, you know, just a little bit. And sometimes they're not going to come off. So the good news of the scanning companies, they have flatbed scanners. So sometimes they just scan the whole page because it doesn't come off. So, you know, variety. But I'm just wanting to address albums. Obviously, if they're in pockets, you pull them out and then you don't put them back in because they're probably not. Or if it's like a scrapbook. Anybody do scrapbooks, like 12 by 12? You could have the whole page scanned. So think about this. There's two kinds of scanners. The ones that you feed in, like you go to a photocopy, you know, company, or there's a flatbed. So you can do a little variety. All right, more questions.
When you have the photo scanned, what kind of paper does it come back in? Is it the same size as the original photo?
So when you have it scanned, it's being turned into a digital file. It's not being copied onto paper. So it's like a photo that you would take on your phone today. That's the kind of file. It's called a JPEG, just to give the terminology what kind of file. So no new paper is added to your set. Put it all together. Okay, excellent. Keep throwing pictures.
What about photos that are not in albums, but are
That's a really
Thank you
good
for asking. So two things. Sometimes they're duplicates, because maybe you had a 5x7 made or an 8x10, and you have the small one, so you can just scan the small one. If it's the only picture that you have, because maybe it was a professional, you can bring them to the scanning company. They'll unframe it for you, reframe it if you wish to have it framed. Most of my clients are like, no, I just want them unframed, and then that's it. So what I love about the ones that are framed is that, to me, you've already told yourself those are important, memorable photos. If they're hanging on the wall in a frame, they already got special attention. So they're goodies.
or your parents told you that they were people who lived 250 years ago.
Who probably weren't smiling in the photo because they didn't smile back then. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you have them digital, how do you share them? Does everybody sit around a computer or get them on your TV somehow? Do you use them? The way I use an album, that I'll share it with you. Come see my mother or the dancer. But I don't know that I'd sit down at the computer and say, come see my children growing up.
True. I'm glad you shared that. That's why there's the various ways that each family can choose.
But they're preserved on the,
Exactly. And you can share them with,
and you can let it be their issue.
well, and what I love is when I'm working with clients and they'll see a picture for the first time they haven't seen in a long time and they say, wait, I just had lunch with Susie last Tuesday.
Right.
They'll take a quick picture of it and text it to her.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a part of the gift of the whole process too. It's not a perfect scan. It doesn't matter. It reconnected or it gave them some fun. So once again, you
Yeah.
can have some fun with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, or just go to a family reunion. You'll have it on your phone with you that you can, do different things. But
Okay.
I think the beauty of it is once you have it curated and scanned, you'll come up with ways to,
Okay.
because you reconnected with your photographic memories that you hadn't seen in a few years.
Oh, and I'm gonna take all the duplicates and let my grandkids have at it. Let them have fun.
Yes, exactly. Yes, sir.
A little bit different, we have a box of these videos, all of these different formats that we don't have the cameras for anymore. Any hints on, I don't know what's in there, but I know there's some good stuff. So what do I do with that?
You take it to the print
Same
refinery
place?
and ask them to.
The same place that we take the,
Yeah. And what they'll do is, obviously if you have some label on it, that'd be great. It might tell you what year, but we didn't always do that. But they're very sensitive because maybe it was the copy of Jeopardy, that you taped back in the day that you taped it because you wanted to watch it. They'll say, I can charge you maybe $5 just for looking at it, but they're not going to convert it because.
that's what I want, yeah, I don't want the junk.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, but no, they'll convert all of that, and it sounds like you're more in the technical world that you could be editing those converted tapes because to sit down and watch an hour or two of someone's soccer game isn't really what you want to be doing, but maybe, grab the snippets, and they can do that for you. Other places too, that they could, you can
Well,
say.
I don't have the thing to edit, the camera's gone, or the recharger for the camera's gone.
I actually meant the converted file to edit that. Which sometimes people do, like they'll watch a movie and they can, say from 1 minute to 3 minutes and 20 seconds, I want that piece and I want 10 minutes and 20, you can, and then they'll slice it out and give you those smaller files.
Okay.
But yeah, and to me, that's beautiful because you got sound and action, it adds another layer of story because it's not just a printed photo.
What do you suggest for those old, early 1900s, very before that, photos of people you don't know who they are?
It's a hard one. Well, I'm going to give you a two-part answer. Having those kind of photos, I'm hoping will encourage you to curate the ones you have today that you know the people so that the history doesn't repeat itself for your children. Because you've had that experience. To answer your question, if you don't know the people, we typically save a sampling of it because it still tells a generation that maybe your kids or grandkids haven't seen or don't know about. And like I said, people weren't smiling in those photos because do you know why people didn't smile in the photos in the way back years? That could be. But I understand is that back in the day, the shutter speed was really slow. So if you smile and it got all fuzzy. So they would tell. Yeah, that's how they look. Yeah. Right? It's looked unhappy, but it was just technology. So I would say a sampling just to sort of have that as part of the history. Or like I'm working with a client right now, we at least know that these photos were the Larson side of the family. We don't know exactly who's who, but sometimes when you play detective, you can figure out who's who because the family resemblance is striking.
Yeah.
That's the fun part is amazing how you can see people looking alike.
So if you come out and you have 8,000 photos that you scanned and you said, oh, just save them on your computer and save them on your internet. Won't that crash my iPhoto, or do you have to start paying for storage to store such big projects?
It depends on how
How does
many
that work?
gigabytes it takes up, yes. It won't crash your phone because you can optimize the storage on your phone. In Apple Photos, you can say, don't keep the full size file in my phone, just a little, like a thumbnail of it. But you're talking about your computer, so it may hog your iCloud. See, you may have 8,000, you may not have. Maybe you're motivated now to,
You just have to increase your storage capacity at
Right.
whatever storage
Right.
thing you use.
exactly, right, yeah, it's not just Apple, but I was giving you an example.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I'd be happy if you got to that place and had that challenge.
Oh, I would be
Right.
very happy.
And that's my goal for you, to get there and deal with it. Or you could give each other a flash drive if you know each other outside the presentation, that'll be a backup.
Do you recommend, taking the photos that are already curated out of these albums that my parents have left me or my wife has done and putting them in archival boxes? Or
Is that after you have them scanned?
if I just can't make the transition scanning, usually take them out. I mean, they're already pretty well curated.
Because they've been put in the album, so they
Yeah.
were on the whole roll of film.
Right.
As long as they're in climate controlled, I'd be happy that they're safe. I'd rather have you scan at least a portion of them so that you have them really safe.
Okay.
And like I say, it's quality over quantity. It's not everything. And you can even do it in pieces. To sort of see how it feels. And you see the magic and see the results, and you make progress. Are we questioned out?
Thank you very much.
One more.
I just had one more on the celebration of whiteboards that you made into a book. Was that through Walgreens too, or how?
No, I had all the digital files, and so I could take them to anywhere. Walgreens, I believe, does it as well. To me, I'll give you one suggestion about photo books if you're going to do it yourself. There's so many websites. What I would say, stick with one and go with it.
It's good then.
Because if you try to make, besides, and you could have a professional do them, and they use different websites that are not available to, general consumer, but don't keep trying one because then you'll have a learning curve over and over again. And they're fairly comparable in terms of quality and offerings.
Which one do you want?
I know Shutterfly. That's the only one I know.
And
Because
I
I
used
switched.
Apple, and it was fabulous for a wedding.
Yeah.
Do they still do it? Yeah.
I don't know. They did it.
They
for
did
the-
it for a while, then
You can get a plug-in into the Photos app, and so they support a few different companies, but you would have to install the plugin.
And do you think Shutterfly will be, will the quality still be there in 25 years? When you get a Shutterfly book, do you think it'll hold up? Thinking about the paper
Good
and
question.
the ink and the.
I'm stumped on that. I do not know. Lita, any suggestions?
So Shutterfly historically has not used archival papers and printing methods. There are other printers that do. You could probably Google which printers do. I think Milk Books is archival. They're beautiful books, and they're available to general consumers. Milk Books, MILK books. They're out of Asia.
We're gonna
Beautiful.
wrap up now. I want to remind people that we have a handout, so don't leave without one. And if you can, come back next Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, same place. And we'll hear Lita Bunting talk about the last 15 or 20 years of your photos that are living on your phone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.